I think we can get started. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's webinar on commitments from actors other than national governments towards the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. My name is Tanya McGregor, and I work as a Program Management Officer at the United Nations Environment Program, working under the JEF 8 program to support MBSAP update and 7th national reports. And I'm very happy to be here to moderate today's session. So the session today is focused on the critical role of actors other than national governments in delivering the Global Biodiversity Framework's goals and targets. Tracking and reflecting these contributions in national reporting is essential to demonstrate the whole of society approach required to halt and reverse biodiversity loss, and to ensure that commitments made through global and national initiatives are captured in the global review process, which is underway this year. Today's webinar is jointly organized by the CBD Secretariat, the United Nations Development Program, and United Nations Environment Program, with the financial support from the Global Environment Facility, the JEF, and is part of the capacity development support provided under the JEF 8 umbrella program to support MBSAP updates and 7th national reports. So I think we will go over some house rules now to start. And thanks again for joining us today. So just a quick note on your screen, in case you're not as familiar with Zoom, but we do have simultaneous interpretation available today in French and Spanish. So thank you to the interpreters for joining us. To activate your interpretation, you can click on the globe icon that should be showing at the bottom of your screen and select your preferred language. If you want to follow the English session, please select the English channel. Otherwise, it will turn to whichever language is being spoken. I would also kindly ask all speakers and participants to speak slowly when taking the floor to support the interpreters. And if you experience any technical issues, you may send a private Zoom message to my colleague Alexis Legigand, who will be available to assist. And please also note that we are recording this webinar, and the recordings will be shared with you by email after the session. So now we're moving to the agenda for today. After this brief opening, we'll move into the first segment of this session, which will feature introductory presentations by the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity. Following this, we will proceed with a live demonstration of the online reporting tool. This part of the webinar will provide targeted guidance on how actors can submit commitments through the tool and will help build a shared understanding of the process among parties to the CBD. It will explain where and how information should be entered, how it links to the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and how these submissions contribute to the global review of collective progress towards the implementation of the framework. We'll then open the floor for questions on the reporting process, and we will then conclude after a few final reflections. And that is the overview for today. So we hope you find this session useful and informative. So just to give you some objectives of the session before we get started, the aims of this session include to clarify the role and importance of commitments from actors other than national governments in implementing the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, to clarify how submitted commitments inform the global review of collected progress under the GBF or the KMGBF, and to build practical understanding of how to submit commitments through the online reporting tool. I would also like to highlight that this session offers a valuable opportunity to clarify any questions that you may have ahead of the 7th National Report submission deadline, which is 28th of February, 2026, the end of this month. We strongly encourage you to participate actively, so you are welcome once we get to the Q&A sessions to participate by entering questions in the chat or through raising your hand and taking the floor. So with that,
Tanya, just sorry to step in. It seems like we're having an issue with the French interpretation, so I'm just going to
oh,
ask if possible to our interpreters to unmute. I think it might be a microphone issue. Hopefully that can be
okay.
resolved. Thank you,
Thank you
Tanya. Sorry.
for letting us know. I hope, j'espère que tous les collègues qui parlent français, ou tous les participants peuvent comprendre qui a été dit déjà. I hope everyone has been able to understand things so far. We have just gotten started, so you haven't missed that much. All right. I hope I can go ahead. So I wanted to just introduce or start off with the first session, first part of the session for today. So it is my pleasure. Okay, I see that the French is working now. Excellent. Just in time for me to introduce my colleague Jillian Campbell, who is the head of Planning, Monitoring, Reporting, and Review, the unit at the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity. And she will guide us through some information on key decisions of the Conference of the Parties related to national reporting. So I will hand things over to you, Jillian. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And welcome everyone to this webinar. As you may know, this is the third in the series of webinars that we are running. And I will, maybe if we just go to the next slide, I wanted to sort of mostly just walk you through how we got to this point. So at COP14, so ages ago, there was a decision to develop an enhanced planning, monitoring, review, and reporting mechanism. And so in the lead up to COP15, parties got together and discussed what would be the elements of that review mechanism and how do we make sure that we are fostering a whole of government, whole of society approach. And so in the decision at COP15, which was the same decision where the agreement on national reports, the same decision that NBSAPs and national targets would be submitted by COP16. In that decision, the parties also agreed to have commitments from actors other than national governments as part of this mechanism. At the time, there was not a template for this submission, so there was also an agreement to develop the template. And at COP16 is when the template for commitments from actors other than national governments was developed. So this is a formal way for any actor to submit what it is that they're doing, how they're contributing to the KMGBF. It's an evolution of the previous action agenda. The action agenda you might be familiar with didn't have a lot of structure, so therefore there wasn't really a way for people to demonstrate sort of concrete commitments that they were making. And so this is the sort of the evolution of that, where now we have this template that specifically says, what are you doing against each target or the targets that you would like to make a commitment against? And where are you doing these activities? And so if you are a actor other than a national government, then the way that it works is that you can go into the system, you can first tell the Secretariat who you are, which Blaise will walk you through this in a minute, but from the Secretariat side, we are very interested in validating to make sure that the people who register themselves represent the organizations that they say that they register and that these organizations are real. So if you are working for Apple, let's say, then you would need a letter from the CEO or from the director of biodiversity or from someone very senior in the organization that says that you are the person who can make commitments on behalf of the organization, so that we can make sure, in my example, for a big company like that, that the person who's entering the information is really able and has the authority to make the commitment on behalf of the whole company. And so what we need in order to do this is this sort of credentialing step where you provide information on your organization, you provide information on the status of the organization. Is it accredited with the CBD already? Does it have legal status? And then we validate this. And then once you do that, then you are able to make a commitment. in the system. So now the commitments in the system are, once we know that you're from the organization you say, then that it is the end of the Secretariat's validation. But what happens then is when this information is entered, if you say that your commitment is in Tanzania, Mozambique, and Kenya, then the national focal points from those three countries would get an email to say that this information has been registered in the system. So what we are hoping is that this will really also serve, it will serve as a way for parties to demonstrate what it is that they're doing towards the framework. It will provide a way to share that information with the national government and to make the national government aware of it. And on the national government side, they will be able to see this information, review this information, ask questions. There will be a way for them to contact the person who made the commitment. And if they have concerns, then they can send the commitment back to whoever had submitted it for that person to make any corrections that they think are necessary. So that's sort of the way that the system is designed, and we're very much hoping that it will then foster a relationship between the national governments and the other actors. Okay, next slide. So I think that I will sort of leave it at that. I'm not sure we're breaking for questions and answers, but we're very interested in having these commitments made in the system. And the other benefit of making these commitments is it's a source of information that will feed into the global review at COP17. And so hopefully it will make all of the work, all of the wonderful work that different actors are doing more visible at the national level, more visible at the global level. We will be summarizing this information and presenting it as commitments in the global report. And so this provides a way to make sure that whatever amazing work that you're doing it is really known by everyone. Thanks. Back to you, Tanya.
Thanks very much, Jillian. I think that's very helpful. We do have some time for a few questions now. I see that we have a couple questions popping up in the chat, and we also have some hands raised. I did see a hand from Cheng Cheng Tan as the first hand, I believe. So if they can be given the floor to speak, and then we can move on to the other hands raised and the questions in the chat. Thanks. Go ahead, please. I just want to make sure. Please unmute yourself, Cheng Cheng. I believe you had your hand up. If not, we will just move
Sorry,
on.
apologize.
Okay.
I just clicked that accidentally.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Oh, sorry, unless you don't have a question. If that was an accident, then we can move on to the next person. Okay, so I do have Ram Dial Vaishnav on the screen as with your hand raised, so please go ahead.
Yes, I want to ask this question regarding the credentials. So I have submitted credentials for my organization, I think a couple of weeks back, but I haven't heard back on that. So should I follow up with someone to get it verified and get an update from the Secretariat?
Okay, thank you. I don't know if Jillian, you can just comment on the accreditation process from the CBD side about the length of time that might take in some instances.
So I'm checking now, and I cleared all of the credentials that I had received as of yesterday. They were all cleared yesterday. So, and I just looked online to see there's only one outstanding. So I'm not sure what organization you are from, but my belief would be is that you have either been credentialed or it has been rejected and it has come back to you. So if it gets rejected, then there's typically a comment associated with that rejection. So it's not like that it's not a complete rejection. reject is a hard word, but it's more of a return back to you because there's more information that is required. In a lot of cases, the ones that are getting rejected, it's because in the letter they have listed emails, and then those emails don't match the emails that are attached in the form. I think that perhaps people are not realizing that they have to also put the emails in the form. So that's an example of why they're getting rejected, or that they're also being rejected if there's not a letter attached that demonstrates that the person has the authority to commit, or if there's no sort of example of what kind of status this organization has, or who this organization is. So those are the main types of reasons why there's a rejection. You can always email the MEA Secretariat email address, which I think will probably show on the screen later if you have specific questions, but there are not any outstanding ones in the system.
Okay, I hope that answers that question. I do see that someone else in the chat had the same question, Christian, so I hope that's been answered. And I just, while you're on the subject, Jillian, there's another question that says from Nima, which says, what happens once the commitment is returned to the organization who made the commitment after being vetted by the national government? So I think that question is once the commitment is returned. I'm not sure if that means the accreditation is returned or if there's an issue with the commitment.
Probably the commitment, because they said by the national government. So in both cases, if the accreditation, if the credentials is rejected, then it is rejected with a comment, and then you can address the comment and then resubmit. The same is true for if a party rejects it. So if a national government rejects it, they should be putting a comment there that says why. If I think of the ones that I have seen rejected so far, it's often because I think we had an issue where there was people who were working actually within one country, and then they clicked that they were working within Europe. So what happened is that I think they were thinking the country that they were working in was within Europe, but when they clicked Europe, then it broadened the scope. And so all of the European countries received this commitment. And so for all of them where the commitment wasn't happening, they all rejected it because it was the person had really made the scope of their commitment not clear. And so then it goes back to the person, and then the person can adjust that scope and resubmit to the correct country. So that's an example of one that was rejected.
Okay, thank you. I see we have some more questions or hands raised in the chat, so I'll move to the hands raised, and then we can maybe return to the questions in the chat. So I think Eda is up next. Eda Fernandez, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm here as a chairperson for the Board of Directors of the Women Caucus to the CBD. We have been attending the webinars on this online platform, and we still have these doubts that come from our constituency. It's a very concrete thing because we have all these questions about the introduced requirement for submitters to prove legal status. This requirement is not reflected on the decisions adopted at COP15 or COP16. On the contrary, the COP16 decision explicitly called for flexibility for format of submissions to be as simple as possible. These additional layers appears to go in the opposite direction and risk creating unnecessary barrier for many constituencies. We have stated the complication of gaining legal status for different women organizations around the globe. And we would like to know, how is this going to be taken care of from the the secretariat are the part that we need to a clarification of how the legal status requirement will no longer apply for major groups or other stakeholders. And we can be the channel to explain to our constituencies that are not able to do that, but have so much to contribute for the report, especially women that are almost invisible. Their role as actors and contributions to biological diversity, conservation, and sustainable use is almost invisible. So we need that explanation, clarification, and we highly appreciate your response. Thank you.
Thank you, Etta. Do you have any comments, Jillian?
Yeah, so there's three different options here. One is if you provide legal status, then because we're just trying to check to make sure that people are who they say they are, so that we have some assurance in the system, and we feel that this will give parties the assurance that the information that they're receiving is not from sort of nefarious actors. So, I mean, it's just making sure that, as I said, that people are really who they say they are and that they have the ability to submit. So if you have the legal status, then this is something that would make it easy. So we would do it using that. There's the other options. So if you have been accredited to any meeting in the UN, so if you have attended any of the, well, not any in the UN, well, actually we would. So if you've attended any CBD meeting and are accredited that way, then you don't need to prove anything. Also, some of the people who have been submitting are not accredited with the CBD, but they have demonstrated to us, or they've referred to an accreditation that they have with another UN process. So if they are actively participating in the Convention on the Status of Women or something, then also that means that they have been, at some point, someone has made sure that they're real, their organization exists. And so if you've been approved for any meeting, then that is also another route. And then another route is that if you're really having trouble, then we can engage with the people in the CBD who work on this. So it's very similar to what we do for the accreditation of meetings. We're following a similar procedure. So, for example, if a person wants to register to attend one of the CBD meetings and they are not able to provide a proof of legal status, then they work directly with the relevant person at the CBD to try to overcome this. And so this would be so then if that happens to you, then you can send us a message and then we can direct you towards the person who handles the IPLC or women or youth issues within the Secretariat and see if we can get it resolved. I would say I don't believe that I have seen so far any women's organizations that have tried to submit credentials and been rejected. So I haven't actually received any that have had this problem that I know of.
Okay, thanks, Jillian. I think in the interest of time, I'm noticing we're getting a lot of questions in the chat. We still have a number of hands raised. I want to turn to some of the questions that have come up in the chat. They're a bit along the same lines, particularly asking for an example of the commitment, the type of commitment expected, whether or not the commitment has to be aligned with a specific country MBSAP. And if past actions can be reported, or is it only future commitments? And can one organization submit multiple commitments? So those are all around, what does a commitment look like? How do you submit, if it has to be future only specific to a country MBSAP, or can there be more than one? So over to you, Jillian.
So I think when we do the demo of the commitments, then you'll see what the template looks like. You can also look in the COP 1632 decision. And if you go to the portal, you can also get an example. So, I mean, this is still a new process, but there are a few people who have already committed. So you can also look at those as examples. And so when you fill out the form, it asks you about the type of the organization. If it is a national commitment, then yes, we are asking you how it's aligned with the MBSAP. You can still say that you can still refer to the global targets if you prefer, but it gives you an option to link with the country's national targets. If you make a multi-country commitment, then you're asked more to align with the global targets, because then we can match that to the national targets of those countries and share it that way, because it's a little bit confusing if you're committing to 10 countries to try to say how it relates to every single one of those 10 national targets. And so then you enter what the title of the commitment is, the description, the start and the end, and how it links up with the targets of the GBF. So an example here is that I'm looking at right now online is that a Finnish company made a target related to reducing food waste. And then they have linked that and increasing recycling and reducing waste, basically, and they've linked this to target 16 in the framework. And so that would be an example. If you are actively involved in restoration projects, obviously you would say how you're involved. If you're involved in, if you're a women's organization and you're really involved in trying to improve women's participation, then you would link to Target 22. So you basically are just, you do have to find a home for the activity that you're doing in the framework itself. So looking at the targets, how are you working towards those?
Okay, thanks. Oh, thank you. Sorry to cut you off. I'm a bit concerned about the time and the fact that we have still so many more questions, which, I mean, it's great. We have the opportunity to answer some of them, but I don't think we'll be able to get to all the questions. I think those put in the chat, we can respond to in writing. I'm thinking that we could move on to the next stage of the presentation, and then the people that have their hands raised, we can come back to you at that time. There may be some questions that you have now that will be answered in the after seeing the online reporting tool demonstration. So I hope that sounds okay. So I would like to move on to Blaise, my colleague Blaise. And if Jillian, you can stay on the line to answer any questions that are relating to the commitments at the next Q&A session.
Perfect, I'll be here.
Thank you. So Blaise, I think you're online now.
Hello. Yeah.
Yes,
Can you
please
hear me?
go ahead. Yes. So just to let all of our participants here know that you're the Associate Information System Officer at the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity, and you are going to be the one leading us through this demonstration of the online reporting tool for the 7th National Report. So hopefully this will give you a better understanding of what it looks like to enter a commitment, what that means in terms of verification, and the rest of the processes related to this. So over to you, Blaise. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So today I'll be taking you through I'll be making the demo on how to submit a commitment on the online reporting tool. And because it's a new type of system that has been built, and it's kind of a new workflow that the CBD has built, I'll be starting with some basic information, and then I'll go deep into how to submit stakeholders. So I have a couple of different stages that I'll be taking you through. So I'll be showing you how to log into the system and how to navigate to the stakeholder commitments, then how to submit a credential, post which you will be able to submit new commitments, and then how the notifications to the national focal point works, and then how if there are any commitments that get reviewed by any of the countries' focal point, how they are published and how they are displayed on the dashboard. In between my demo, I'll also be asking a few questions to participants. It will be great if you can respond so that we can know where in the process the participants are at, so we get an idea. So to start with, the first thing that you should do is make sure that you have an account with the CBD. And then the easiest way to, if you already have an account, you can go to the portal ort.cbd.int. And the stakeholder section is under the ORT. You can start by clicking on sign in on the right-hand side. If you already have an account, you can skip this process of the sign up. If you haven't logged in, you can log in with your credentials. But if you do not have an account, you can click on the sign up button on the right-hand side. This will take you to the registration screen. It's a very simple registration form. You have to enter your name, organization, the email address, and a password. Once you submit this form, you will receive an email on your registered email address that you just provided in the registration form. Please make sure that there will be a link in that email. Please make sure that you click on that email in order for your account to be verified. If you do not verify this account, then the system will not allow you to submit any information in the stakeholders section. So it's really important that you click on the link before you start submitting any information in the ORT. So once you have logged in, you will come back to the screen. This is the live portal ort.cbd.int. For the demo purpose, I'm going to go on a test site.
On n'entend rien. On n'entend pas du tout en fait.
I'll be going on the test site, but you as a participant, you do not have to use this site. So please ignore the URL and please make sure that you are always on the live site, which is ort.cbd.int. So once you go on the portal, the stakeholder section can be accessed from the left-hand side menu. We have a stakeholder menu on the left-hand side menu, and you'll see various different menus that are available to you as a logged-in user. You'll see on the screen, my role is registered user, so I do not have any special roles in the system, which is fine. The first thing that you need to do is go to the menus on the left-hand side menu. We have the all commitments menu. This is where you will be able to find all the commitments that have been published by various stakeholders. Then we have my commitments. So this is the section where you will be able to submit or modify your existing commitments. And then we have the credentials section. This is where you will be able to submit credentials in order to get access to the My Commitment section. So the first thing that you need to do is submit a credential. So we'll start with submitting a credential. Now for the demo purpose, I have already created a credential, but in case if you have not submitted a credential, this section will be empty for you. You can start with clicking on Submit New. But I already have a credential, so I'll just click on Edit. It will be the same screen for you if you choose a new credential or modify an existing credential. The first section that you will be asked is, do you represent a national government? If you represent a national government, in that case, you can answer yes. In that case, you will be asked to select the government that you represent. If you are an organization, then you should respond no, so that you don't have to link yourself with the government. Following that, we have some contact details that are required to be filled in. So these contact details, please make sure that you provide the correct contact details, because once you submit these credentials and once you approve the credentials, this same information will be carried over to all the commitments that you are going to submit. So please make sure that this information is up to date, so that these credentials can be linked with your commitments. This is a simple contact details form. If you scroll down, you have geographical scope. So this geographical scope is the scope of your organization. Here you will select what kind of jurisdiction your organization covers. So we have local, national, subnational. If you select one of the three options, then you will be prompted to select the country for which this jurisdiction is. So for example, if I select subnational, then I'm selecting the country of my organization, and then I'll also provide the subnational government. Probably it's a state or a province from the country that the organization's geographical scope limits to. Once you have done the selection, then you go to the authority letter section, and this is the most important section that needs to be correct, and this will allow you to gain access to the commitment section. So please make sure, as Jillian mentioned, please make sure that you upload a document which is issued by a senior person from your organization, which also mentions that so-and-so person has been authorized on behalf of the organization to submit commitments in the online reporting tool. And please also make sure that whenever whichever email addresses are mentioned on the document, they are also mentioned in the authorized email section here. These two sections need to match in order for your credential to be approved. So please make sure that these two sections match to avoid any back and forth on your credential approval. Please also try to make sure that whichever email address that you are providing in this list, please make sure that they also have signed up. They also have created an account with the CBD, so that it's easier to grant them just the roles to access the My Commitment section. So once the information has been filled, you can click on the review section. The review section will give you an overview of how the information looks like when you submit this information. The overview section will also highlight any mandatory information that you may have missed. So it will show you the list of any fields that you may have missed. If there are no validation errors, you can click on publish, and you will be provided with a publish button. Once you click on the publish button, there's a confirmation. Once you click on the publish button, your credential will be submitted, and the CBD secretariat will be notified that so-and-so person has submitted a credential. And then we have the option to validate your information. And then there will be a decision that will be made. Either your credential will be approved or your credential will be rejected based on the information that you have provided. If your credentials are approved, you will receive two different emails. I will show how the emails look like. If your credentials are approved, you will receive two different emails. The first email is letting you know that your credential has been approved, and the email that will be sent to you will look something like this. This is the credential, the title of your credential, and there's some little information based on the approval. The second email that you will receive is notifying you that your profile, your CBD account profile, has been granted a role. And this is the email on my screen that will look like this. This will mention some of the details from your profile. And this will also mention that your profile has been granted an ORT stakeholder commitment authorized user role. So after you receive this email, this confirms that you have been granted access to the commitment section. So from after this email, you can go back to ORT and start submitting commitments. We'll do a demo on how to submit commitments. In case if the information that you have provided in the credentials have some discrepancy, or like if the secretariat requires any follow-up, the secretariat will reject your credential request. If that happens, you will also receive an email, and this is how the email will look like. This will be a basic email with the subject that your request for credential has been rejected, and there will be a reason provided. Each rejection will be supplemented with an rejection reason. In this case, for an example, I've said like, please upload documents signed by the head of your organization. So probably the credential that I submitted did not have the signature from the head of the organization or the director of your organization. In that case, please do not respond to the email with the document, but please go back to the online reporting tool and go back to the credentials section. So in my case right now, because I have submitted the credential and it's in process of validation, it shows locked. But once your request has been rejected, and if you come back to when you receive the email, when you come back to the credential section, you will see that the credential that you submitted will be in draft mode. In my case, it's locked as well, but in your case, it will be draft mode because your request has been rejected, and you will have the option edit enabled. You can click on the edit button. This will open the credential for you to modify. You can update the credential based on the information that was sent to you in the email. You can upload all the information that was requested and then submit it again. The secretary will receive this request again. They will again verify the information, and if everything is okay, they will then grant you the access to the commitment section. So once that's done, the second step in the credential section, the stakeholder section is done. You're good to now start submitting commitments. Now, it will be nice to know from participants if you have already submitted credentials. If you have already done that, maybe you can type in the chat yes, or if you are in process of submitting credentials, maybe you can share in the chat in process, so we get an idea how many people are in process of submitting the credentials. Thank you. So once now you have received the roles to submit credentials, then you can go to the My Commitment sections. Here you will be able to see all the commitments that you have submitted so far, your commitments only. At the beginning, it will be an empty screen because you haven't submitted any credentials. But in my case, for example, I've already submitted one commitment, and that has been already published. You can submit as many commitments as you want. How to submit a commitment, you can start with clicking on Submit New. This will open the the commitment screen for you to enter information. We have a few sections that I'll probably did not mention about. We have some introduction that is provided. This is my demo site, but if you go on the live site, you will see some description about what a commitment is and what are the various workflows that are involved in the commitment section. So we'll see some description about the commitment. In the submission section, you will see you have the edit form where you will be entering all the information. When you go to the review section, this is where you will be able to see how the information looks like after you have entered it in the system. If there are any validation errors, you will be able to see them. Just like on the screen, I have 8 validation errors because these are mandatory questions and we haven't entered any of this information. And on the publish button, this will only be enabled if all the validations on the review section have been answered. So in order for you to go to the submit section, you have to make sure that you have answered all the mandatory questions. We have quite few action buttons on the screen. We have save draft. So once every 5 minutes, it is recommended that you click on save draft in order for the information that you have entered so far is saved to the server. So in case if something happens, you do not lose information. The review button will just switch you over to the review section. You're also able to generate PDF of the information that you have submitted. Or if you want to just print this section, you can print this section, print the commitment information. So we go back to the submission section. So a commitment can be submitted in any of the 6 UN languages, 1 or more UN languages. So you have 6 UN languages. You can select any of the a UN language. If you want to submit a commitment besides UN language in any of your national language, you also have that option. You can select the answer yes to this question, and then you will get an option to select local languages. However, it's mandatory to still provide information in 1 UN languages. So you can select your own local language and then also provide information in one of the UN language. So the next thing that we come across in the credential commitment section is the contact details. Now, like I mentioned in the credential sections, you enter contact information. And this is the same information that we entered in the credentials. This credential information is carried forward in the commitment section. And you will notice that this section is disabled. You're not allowed to modify this information. So this is copied over from your credential information, and this gets linked with your commitment. And in case if you want to modify this information, you will have to go back to your credential, modify that information, do the whole process of getting it approved by the CBD. Once that has been approved, all the new credentials that you create will have the updated contact information. So please make sure that this contact information is up to date, because this will also be attached with your commitment when anybody in the world is going through your commitments. They will be also seeing this information. So it's really important that this contact information is correct and up to date. Here, the system clearly mentions that this section cannot be modified. In case if this needs to be modified, you have to go to the credential section. So then we have the section general information. This is where you start entering information about the commitment. We start with the title of the commitment. Then there is some description of the commitment. When you are scrolling through the commitment section, you will see that some of the fields, some of the questions have some special text boxes with some additional buttons. And this is what we call rich text editors. This allows you to create to make your narrative text more visual. So in case if you want to make some bold italic text, or want to have some paragraphs, or want to have some kind of bulleted lists, or if you want to add some tables, or if you want to complement the text with some images, or upload any attachments. All these things can be done in these text boxes. You can also copy paste text from a Word file. I'll just do a quick example. I have an example. I have a table in a Word file. If I copy this text, and then if I copy paste it here on the section, you'll notice that the system copied the table as it is from the Word file. It is also retaining the formatting. If you like to upload some images, I have few example of an image that if you like to upload it, like let's say, for example, at this particular section, you can just drag an image, and then the system will upload that image to the CBD server, and then show you a preview of the image that you just uploaded. You also have the option to resize it as per your need. Or if you like, there are certain predefined percentage that you can resize it with. If you want to resize it by your own wish, you can move your cursor at the border of the image and then just resize it as you need. And there are various other features that are easy to know on this particular text boxes. The same way, you can also upload attachments. You can just drag and drop any type of file that is supported, and then the system will upload that file to the CBD server and create a link for you on these text boxes. Further, then we have few other questions that we don't have to go in like part of the demo. I think they're quite straightforward that you can answer. I will move directly to another important section of the commitment, which is again the most important section, is the geographic scope of the commitment. Now, why this is important is because whatever decision you make in this commitment, that will determine the workflow of your commitment. So this is where you will say that this commitment is linked with either one country or multiple country, or particular region or multiple regions. So let's say, for example, if your commitment is linked with a particular one single country, then in that case, you should answer to this question: is this commitment related to one country, multiple country, or global commitment? In that case, you will answer national. So this means you have an option to link this commitment with one single country, and you'll only be able to select one country. If I try to select more than one country, the system will not allow you to select more than one country. That's because you have selected the option national. Another thing that happens when you select just one country, I'll go a little down before I show you the multi-countries and global options, is when you select single country, you also have another question to respond to, is if this commitment is explicitly mentioned in any of the NBSAPs of any country. If you say yes, a text box appears for you to do a selection. And then you will see that automatically the country that we selected in the coverage section is automatically linked with the NBSAP question. And that's because you have selected one single country and you have mentioned that this NBSAP is linked with an NBSAP in a country. It's assuming that it's the same country that you have chosen. So that's why this option is by default disabled, and the same country is selected for this particular option, and you're not allowed to modify this selection. Then one more thing that happens when you select one single country, when you link one single country with your commitment, is a commitment has to be linked with a global target, a primary global target. But if you're linking your commitment with a single country, then you also have an option to select your commitment with the country's national target. So in my case, I have said like I want to link the commitment with Haiti. So then the system is now loading the national targets that may have been published by my country. In my case, it's Haiti. So you will see that there are few national targets that have been published on under Haiti that are loaded for you to select. You can only select one primary national target. So I can select any of it. And you can also select a global target if you wish to. This is an optional. Here you will see and or. So you can select any global goal or a target. This is optional, so it can be either of it or both of it. Both values will be selected. If you just want to select a national target, you can do so. If you just want to select a global target, you can do so. It's optional. If you select more than one country, then the selection of primary national target will not be available for you for select. So that's when we go back. In case if our commitment covers multiple countries, then we can switch to multiple countries. In that case, you will be allowed to select multiple countries. So let's say we select Andorra and Argentina. So now you notice that because I selected more than one country, the option to linking the NBSAP, this commitment being mentioned in an NBSAP has been enabled, and then you can also select multiple countries if you have the commitment linked mentioned in any of the NBSAP. Again, if we scroll down a bit, the option to select the country's national target is gone. It's not available. That's because we have multiple countries and only one national target can be linked with the commitment. And because we have selected multiple countries, it's not possible to link the national target. So the only option that you will have is to link a global target with your commitment. Now, we also had a question on the chat. What if you want to link the commitment with a bigger audience or a bigger or region? In that case, you select global. When you do select global, you have the option to select region instead of country. So you will be provided with a list of like 100+ regions that have been defined by the CBD. So you will see all the regions here from CBD. You can select one or more regions that you wish to link it, that you wish to cover in your commitments. The nice thing about selecting a region is maybe you do not know which countries are included in this region. So once you select the regions, let me select 2-3 regions. Once you select the regions, the system will display a small table with each region and the countries that have been included in that region. So you get an idea which regions you are linking this commitment to. It's one or more regions that you can select. So if you do not think like this particular countries that you're linking your commitment should be included, you can just remove the commitment, and then that region will be delinked from your commitment. So based on whatever regions you are covering, you can select whichever region that needs to be included in your commitment. Besides, when you do the global selection, again, the option to select link the commitment with an NBSAP is enabled. You can select as many countries as you want. Again, like the primary global target is the only option that will be made available. There will be no national target option available because we are linking it with more than one country. So for our demo purpose, we're going to just select one country. And then we're going to link it with one target. And then if you want to link your commitment with more than, if you want to link it with more than one national target, then you do have an option to select that, to provide that information under the other national targets. So these are the national targets that will be available. So you have selected one primary national target, and then you can also link it with multiple national targets, but that's an optional selection, and you can do more than one national targets. Or if you want to link it with multiple global targets or goals, you can do that. We can link it with multiple national targets here. This is again an optional target. To know which fields are mandatory and which fields are optional, you will see an asterisk next to each question. When there is an asterisk, that question is a mandatory question and needs to be filled in order to submit this information. Once you selected this information, you will also be able to select any indicators. So these are the indicators that are filtered by the targets that you have selected in the other relevant national goals and targets. So you'll be able to select all the headline, binary, component, and complementary indicators. You can select more than one. You can also select the elements of framework, provide any additional information if you want to. Furthermore, we have few questions about funding and some other questions about partners and then the information on target 15 and if you'll be providing any progress through the commitment. Once you have answered all the information, if there is any information that is not captured through the template of the commitment, and if you want to provide or supplement more information, we do have an additional information section where you can provide any information, add links to any websites, or upload any files for the commitments. Once this information has been submitted, entered, you should click on review, make sure there are no validation errors. Once this information, once you have entered all the validation errors, you will be able to click on publish, and you'll be able to submit the publish, click on the publish button. For the demo purpose, I will modify my existing commitment. So in my case, I have entered all the information. And then when I click on review, I do not have any information that needs to, that is missing. If I click on publish, I have the publish button. Once I click on publish, the information will be submitted to the CBD server, and then you get a little information about what are the next steps that will happen in the system. So here it mentions that this certain information will be notified to the national focal points. Before I go there, it will be nice to know from participants if there are any participants who have already submitted any commitments. Maybe you can write submitted. Or if you are in process of submitting commitments, maybe you can also share with us if you are in process of submitting new commitments through the ORT. So this is where the workflow initiates. We have submitted a commitment, and we have linked it with one country. In my case, I have selected Haiti. So what will happen here is, once you submit this information, the system will initiate a new workflow and notify the countries that have been linked in the commitment, the national focal points. It will send an email to those national focal points saying, letting them know that so-and-so organization has submitted a commitment and they have linked it with your country. They will have 4 weeks to review the commitment. If they do not review the commitment within the 4 weeks, the system will automatically assume the commitment has been reviewed and it will publish your commitment. So that the day from your commitment is published, it will take maximum of 4 weeks in order for it to be published on the ORT system. It can take less if the country that has been linked with your commitment does a review before the 4 weeks time. It will be published before that time. So what happens with the national focal point section? So I'm going to switch my browser to a user. I am logged in as a national focal point, like you see on my screen, for Haiti. So once I have submitted a commitment, because I'm a national focal point, I have an additional menu that is only visible to national focal points, and that is called the country reviews. So this is the section that will be visible for national focal points, and they will be able to see all the commitments that have been submitted in the ORT, which are linked only with their country. So if there are, so not all commitments will be visible for the national focal points, but only the commitments that are linked with the national focal points country. So when I click on the review section, and this is more for the national focal points, you will see that I have five or six commitments that are linked with my country, and all of them have different kinds of status. So we'll just quickly go through different statuses. So there are 5 published commitments. So either I as a national focal point reviewed those commitments that were submitted by stakeholders. I probably said reviewed, and that's the reason they have been published. And you'll see that some of the status which has published, they also have an auto-publish status. So what is that? Is if a national focal point does not review the commitment within the 4 weeks of time, then the system automatically reviews it. This is part of the workflow that has been adopted in the COP document. So the system automatically assumes the commitment has been reviewed with no objection by the country, and that's why it automatically publishes the commitment. And just to make it clear for the NFPs that what has been reviewed by them and what has been automatically reviewed by the system, we highlight what has been reviewed. Like so, this particular commitment was reviewed by the NFP, but this particular commitment was automatically published by the system. So that's why it says auto-publish. So that's the difference between reviewed by an NFP and auto-published by the system. If there is any commitment that is still waiting my review, so that it's been submitted and it's still I haven't responded to that particular commitment, and it's within the 4 weeks time frame, then you will see that there is an awaiting action status. So that means I have not this commitment has come to my section and for my country, but I have not taken any action on this commitment. So this is probably within the 4 weeks period that this commitment is sitting right now. And I have the option to review it. If I review it, that means this commitment will be published. If I return it, that means I am not, I have an objection to this commitment. So I'm going to say return it. When you click on return, the status will change to return. That means you have provided your response and you have given your objection to the commitment. So we have different kinds of statuses to make it easier for the NFPs to make it very clear what kind of decision that their country has made. Now, these decisions that the NFPs have made can be changed anytime. So that's why there is always an option that is available, even if they have made a decision. Let's say, for example, I made a decision to return this particular commitment, but later the NFP changes his mind. He could then go back to the country review section and then just click on review. Once the review has been clicked, the system will then change the status of the commitment to publish. If again, like if the NFP changes his mind on a published commitment, and if they do not want this commitment to be published they will click on return, and then that will change the status of the commitment. There is also a different type of display. Once the user once the commitment has been published, the user who submitted the commitments will be notified by an email saying the commitment has been published. and now is available for everybody in the world to view it. So once the record has been published, you can go to the all commitment section, and your commitment will show up on this section. We've also recently built a map to show the number of commitments that are being published. So if any country, if there is any commitment that is linked with any country, and if the country has reviewed that commitment, then that particular country will be marked green because there is a commitment for that country. So you'll see that there are 16 commitments by 9 stakeholders. So that will be displayed here on this map. Once you go to any commitments, there are different types of views that you will see when. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to keep just to highlight that we're running short on time, or we will be soon, and we want to have a bit of time for questions before we close. So I think you may be winding up, but I just wanted to flag that with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm actually done almost. I just wanted to show the last thing is like once you click on a published commitment, you will see this information. So this is an NFP view. You will be able to see how many countries have reviewed the commitment and how many of you have returned. But this view is only for national focal point. But if you're using the viewing the commitment as an anonymous user, then you will only be able to see the countries that have reviewed the commitment. So in this case, these 3 countries have reviewed the commitment. So a normal user will see only the countries that have reviewed the commitment. So it's just trying to make sure that the information is correctly displayed based on your role that you have in the ORT system. And I think with that, I'm done with the demo. Over to you, Tanya. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much, Blaise, and sorry to interrupt you there. I hope this, I think it was very useful to go through that. I know that there was a number of questions popping up in the chat related to how you become accredited. So this process, I hope, answers that question. I also want to just share for everyone to know that we will be sharing this recording for everyone who registered for the webinar, so you can go through it again at your leisure. We will be sharing a write-up of questions that have come up in the chat. So there is going to be some more information there. I do first, I know we have a lot of questions and some people with their hands up. There are 2 people that had their hands up from the last session that didn't get to speak. So I will turn first to Josefa and then to Friedrich to ask their questions, and we'll move on from there. Thank you. Over to you, Josefa.
Thank you so much. I'm with the Global Youth Biodiversity Network. Thank you for the demo. I wanted to ask what were the options again for those who are neither legally registered nor accredited to any of the under the CBD or other processes. It's because given as a network is accredited under the CBD, but our national chapters who are carrying out the actions that want to report, they are not themselves accredited under the CBD. Could you let us know if like what guidance maybe, because we're trying to figure out what guidance to give our chapters. Should they will it help if the accreditation comes from given, but they can submit their commitments themselves and things like that. So some guidance on that would be really helpful. I'm also asking because the jurisdiction, of course, of the commitments we would like them to show as national commitments if they are national actions. And then the second question that I had, the 4 weeks to approve the commitment, does that factor into the February 28th deadline? Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Josefa. I think your first question especially touches on the one raised by the women's major group earlier, and there was some requests in the chat to have more information on that. Kieran, perhaps you can jump in here with some responses on Josefa's 2 questions. if
Yeah, sure.
possible? Thanks.
Yep, no problem. Perhaps I'll take the last question first, just because that's a bit more straightforward. So the deadline and the 4 weeks, they're not related to each other. So basically, any commitment that is submitted, a party has 4 weeks to either approve or to reject a commitment. The deadline of the 28th of February is simply because we need to prepare the global report, as I'm sure all of you would know. And that's really the deadline that we have in order to be able to incorporate information into that report. So if a commitment is not submitted by the 28th of February, you can still submit. There's no problem with that. The portal is open and will continue to be open. It's just we have a deadline in terms of document preparation, in terms of the commitments that we can consider in that global report process.
But Karen, does it have to have been reviewed by the country to be considered for the global report?
Yes, and until either the 4 week window has expired or a country has approved a commitment and it's not published in the system, we in the Secretariat can't consider it, because it's the COP decision is quite clear on this. I mean, the Secretariat's role in this whole process is really only to make sure, and this kind of touches on the second your first question. The reason the Secretariat has to do these reviews of credentials is really just to make sure that the commitments that are coming in are legitimate commitments, right? Because it's essentially an open platform that's open to all everyone. So the Secretariat's role and really all this credential issue is really just to make sure that the organizations that are submitting commitments are actually legitimate organizations, that these are meaningful commitments, and it's not just essentially people spamming the system with with fake or unreal information. So that's really the context for the credentials. So then, turning to your first question, and this also is a sort of a similar issue that was raised by the CBD Women's Caucus. I think as I said, what's really important is the Secretariat just needs to make sure that the commitments that are being proposed are coming in from organizations that are actually working in this field, and that they actually are legitimate organizations. So in the case that you mentioned, Josefa, with Gibbon, I think for those different chapters, what would be sort of ideal would be if the chapters could themselves request credentials. In those nomination letters, they could say, we are a part of the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, and just sort of to help put that organization in context. I would say it would be the same thing for the Women's Caucus. So if there's an organization that's working, it would be really great if they could submit their own credentials and indicate that they are part of this caucus. If that's not possible, I mean, it is possible for the Women's Caucus or for Gibbon to submit credentials. It's just that then we would need to make sure in any sort of commitments that those commitments are they coming from the entire network, which it may or may not be the case. Are they coming from a specific part of that issue of that organization? So really, as I said, the intention of the credentials is not to try and limit who can submit, but it's really just to make sure that the commitments that are coming in are actually being made from organizations that are actually doing what they're doing. So I hope that answers that. I know there's a lot of sort of specific situations that might arise. So if ever you're having questions, it might actually just be easier to write to us directly, and we can figure out what the best way forward is. Thanks. Back to you, Tanya.
All right. Thanks very much, Kieran. I will now turn to Frederick, who's had his hand up for quite some time. Go ahead, Frederick. Thanks.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I'm Friedrich, working for Friends of the Earth Switzerland, and I'm also with the CBD Alliance. Just to come on the last point. I mean, this presentation has been very nitty-gritty, very technical, and I'm sure when we embark on the journey to fill in this questionnaire, we will have more questions. So it would be good to understand whom to address in case we still have unresolvable questions. Some support address might be helpful. So that's the first point. Secondly, I was just wondering if we have to hand in the credentials just once when we draw up our account, or do we have to have credentials for every commitment we hand in? So maybe that could be clarified. Then a note, I just started to fill in my credentials and referral to our website. And the website we have is in German, but we only can give in the 6 UN languages. And I think that's inappropriate. I mean, it's okay to use the 6 UN languages for any statement we do in the CBD context. But if our website is in German, we should be able to state that. It's just a fact. So maybe you can rework on that field. So those were the technical points. And then I have a fundamental question. How will all these reports, how about all these commitments, what we do? And my organization does a lot for maintaining biodiversity. How will they be used? What will be done, especially in terms of drawing up the global report? Because I mean, it never can be complete because many actors do something for biodiversity, and on the other hand, we will never know if the targets will be achieved, no matter what we do or not. So I'm just trying to get an idea of what the purpose of the whole exercise is. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Friedrich. I think you fit a lot of questions in there. Go ahead, Kieran.
Thanks. So yes, I mean, I'll take them in order. So my colleagues will put an email address in the chat, but basically it's the MEA at CBD. It's basically a generic monitoring email address that we have that's sort of managed by several different colleagues. So depending on the nature of the colleague, or the nature of the question rather, if it's more technical, one person might respond. If it's really about the process, someone else will respond. But that will be in the chat, and that would be the best address to write to. Regarding the credentials, they only need to be submitted once. So basically, once an organization has been accredited as such, then there's no need to go through that process again. The commitments then become really a separate process. As I mentioned, the whole idea behind the credentials is really just to make sure that the organization is actually an organization that's actually working in this area, and that it's not something that's nefarious or someone just trying to sort of clog the system with fake information. With regards to sort of languages being in other websites, I think, yes, that's fine. Really, what we need is the forms that are completed. They should be in one of the 6 languages. If there's a website that sort of provides further information, that's fine. We wouldn't expect that an organization translate an entire website just for the purposes of submitting. It's really the information that's provided in that template should be in one of the 6 languages, just to facilitate us processing it and to make sure that we don't miss anything. With regards to how these commitments will be used, so they are identified as one of the possible sources of information for the global report. And for those of you that were at the last SBSTA meeting, you'll know that the subsidiary body agreed to an annotated outline for that global report, which specifies where those commitments will come in and where they're supposed to be a source of information. So that's really all I can say at this point. We're following the annotated outline that is in SBSTA, in the SBSTA recommendation. And again, as you probably will mostly know, there's an ad hoc group that's been established to help guide that process. So this is one of the things where they'll obviously be providing us with guidance. But I could imagine that these types of commitments could appear in numerous places throughout the report. If they're related to specific targets, perhaps they'll come in there. There's also sections that will be dealing with the whole idea of a whole of society approach to implementation, so they could come in there. So I don't think there's one specific spot, but ultimately the preparation of that global report is going to be guided by that SBSTA recommendation, as well as the guidance that we receive from the ad hoc group that's supporting the entire process. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kieran. Just to raise one of the questions that came up in the chat on this, someone asked if the global review is the same as the global biodiversity outlook. So maybe you can clarify that.
Yeah, so there's sort of 2 different things. There's the global report, which is essentially a report on progress. So that will be a publication. The SBSTA agreed to the annotated outline for that global report. And it's underpinned by the COP's decisions 15.5 and 1632, which really set out the whole process for monitoring, reporting, and review under the CBD. So that's a report. It's like a standalone publication. Then the global review process is actually the decisions that the parties themselves will take. So first at SBI, there'll be an initial discussion, and then ultimately at COP, there will be the actual review process. So the review is the more political aspect, and the report is really just a report. So the global report is in many ways similar to what we had with the global biodiversity outlook, but it is different. So the parties have decided that we would have something called a global review, a global report of collective progress, and that's really just a publication in a practical sense. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much, Kieran. And I think I have another question for you before we move to the one hand that's raised. Just related to this, someone had earlier asked, once a non-government actor's contribution claim is verified and accepted, does this contribution then count towards the goals of that country's MBSAP, or is it accounted for outside of the MBSAP's goals? So that might be useful for people to just understand, again, how these commitments are being used. Okay.
Yes, thank you. So no, they're separate processes. So a country's NBSAP is their NBSAP. A commitment from an actor other than a national government is a commitment. Nothing is preventing a party from then reaching out to an actor other than a national government to see their commitments and perhaps bring them into their NBSAP if they so choose to do so. But they are essentially separate processes unless a national focal point or a national government decides that they want to reach out to an actor other than a national government and try and integrate those commitments within their MBSAP. But they are, unless decided otherwise by a party, they are completely separate processes.
Okay, thanks very much. I think we'll move to Samyang, who has her hand up, and then we may have to start wrapping up because I'm not sure how long we have our interpreters for, but go ahead first, Samyang.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the global report. When is that due out? Is that going to be out for Substa? And also the fact that in order to meet that or to be featured in that, the deadline is the 20th of February. So that's in 2 weeks' time, right? So that might, even if people were to submit their commitment today, like it might not make it in time given the 4-week review process. It doesn't apply to us because we are actually, we've previously submitted commitments, but just clarifying if that is the case.
Yes, so that is the case. So the timeline for the preparation of the global report is spelled out in decision 1631 and then later in the Substa recommendation. There's going to be a number of steps in the preparation of that global report, but the report is to be available for SBI, which is in August of this year. And then there's a peer review process before that. So if you're interested in sort of seeing the details of the timeline, I'd invite you to take a look at decision 1631 and then the Substa recommendation, which really spells out sort of the timeline and the milestones and the opportunities for engagement. And then the deadline is the 28th of February, which is the same deadline as the national reports. Obviously, we'll try and take into account as much information as we can, but really what we can commit to at this point is the 28th of February, just because we need to have these documents ready in short order in order to meet the 6-week window, and then also integrate a peer review process. So it is quite tight. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Kieran. We've come to the end of our slated time for this session, and I see there's still questions popping up in the chat. So I think what we can commit to, as mentioned, is to share the recording, and also we will share in writing responses to the questions that have been raised here. As has been noted in the chat, there is a guidance document on the CBD website under the National Reports page. The link is in the chat. that is guidance on the national reporting process and the use of the online reporting tools. So that is available. There is also the MEA address for the CBD Secretariat where specific questions can be sent directly for a response. And I think there's also the upcoming SBI. For those of you that are there, we'll have members from your organizations or other representatives attending. That's another opportunity to sort of have raise some questions as needed. So maybe I will move on to our summary slides now. And apologies for cutting things a bit short, but we do have interpreters that are on a set timeline, so I want to stick to that. And just to mention again that the link for the recordings and the documents have been posted again in the chat for your reference and use. So just to highlight from a bit from today's discussion, but just to kind of take away with you and to think about going forward, what are some opportunities and actions to build on this? So the opportunity, and this is the first time it has been offered for this kind of entrance or submission of commitments from your organization, company, network, or community is an opportunity for you to demonstrate your commitment to biodiversity and also share the actions that you are taking towards supporting the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. The actions related to that, sharing the actions, sharing the information on your commitments with the country governments where those commitments occur. So if it's more than one country, then sharing it with more than one country government. If you know the CBD national focal points for those governments, if you're not already in touch with them, those focal points and their contacts are on the CBD webpage under the country, individual countries. You may want to reach out to them directly to let them know that you have submitted this commitment and to get their attention to review and clear your commitment so that you don't have to wait for that 4-week period, that the government is already aware of it and can process that or respond to you at least quickly. And this is all part of the approach to ensure a whole of society approach to the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. That's something that was embedded in the framework itself, that it is a recognition that we cannot achieve biodiversity conservation targets and goals with only government action. It has to really engage all members of society. So this is why this platform has been set up to really support and promote commitments from other actors. It's also an opportunity, again, to inspire your peers, inspire other organizations in your networks and those you work with and those you might not even work with. We know that visible commitments can encourage others to act. So we encourage you to share and make those available for others to consider. And also, action-wise, to share data and information for your commitments to inform the global review. As has been mentioned, the global review of collective progress in implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework. So this is a really important global opportunity for us to really see what progress is being made in trying to meet the ambitious goals and targets of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. But take note that the deadline has been mentioned, is the 28th of February of 2026. So commitments can be continued to be entered after that point, but that is the deadline for consideration. So yes, I think with this, we will need to wrap things up. But thank you again for your participation, for staying through this long presentation. And we really hope it's been useful for you. And we will share the information as well to all of you who have been registered for this. So thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You.
Thank you.